To quote one of the characters during this movie, a big old mango-sized crap. And my oh my, it certainly was. Where to fucking start? I'm John Rant with the retro view of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday for 1993. Narrator, it was not the final Friday. Because then we got Jason X, where Jason goes to space. And then we got Freddy vs. Jason and the 2009 Friday the 13th combination, human centipede together of the first two or even three movies. And yeah, Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, aka Friday the 13th, part 9. God, where to fucking start with this goddamn slop fest? Easily the worst entry in the entire Jason timeline. Worse than Jason X, because you at least could get some humor out of that. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday is just bad on the surface, underneath, in every possible goddamn way, because it completely destroys any mythos, any story that was built. I mean, granted, after the first like 3 or so, there really was no story to the Jason movies, even though they tried to go with a new beginning, and they had Corey Feldman, and they had the whole Tommy, can you hear me, can you feel me near you, and then they kind of gave up on that by part 6. And this completes my entire retro viewing of all the previous Friday the 13th movies. I did not intend to go from part 3 to now in about 2 weeks, but there we go. So yeah, there it is. The Real Honest Movie Reviews playlist has all these. And you can look up Jason X, you can look up Friday the 13th, however you want to do it. And I can promise you one thing, if I ever review any, more series like this, I'm probably going to pick and choose how many I do in one clump, because Christ almighty. Written and directed by Adam Marcus, who directed a film called Secret Santa that came out a few years ago. And also, he wrote the 2013 Texas Chainsaw movie, which explains a lot. In fact, it explains pretty much everything about this movie. Two other people helped write this. It took 3 people to write this movie, which explains even more. One of the writers has done television, and also a show called, or a movie called Animal Crackers. And then one of the writers also helped write for some of Magnum P.I. I believe the one that wrote for Magnum P.I. unfortunately passed away. Rest in peace. And yeah, Kane Hodder returns as Jason, and this time we have the only way for a Voorhees to die is for somebody in the Voorhees bloodline to kill him with a magic dagger. No, really. That is where we're going. We're not going with drowning, electrocuting, whatever it is. No, we're just going to go, he's full-on supernatural. He can, take his mighty crystal lake worm and ride that. Good for him. And put that in other people's bodies until he gets into a Voorhees' body, and then he can be reborn. If that made any sense to you, then you certainly are on a different level than me, because I have seen this before. I've watched this at least 3 times, and it's made even less sense and been even more bullshit every time I've seen it, because so many missed opportunities. The comedy is terrible. The late, great Leslie Jordan was in this. I didn't know they allowed children to be fry cooks. And you have Jessica, anyway. I'm going to say right now, John D. LeMay, or however the hell his goddamn name is said, he looks exactly like, he looks exactly like the main guy from Time Chasers, and now if you were an MST3K fan, you will not be able to unsee it. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I think it was Matthew Brutch, I think was the guy's name. So, yeah, there's a magic dagger, and Jason gets dispatched after being led by a very beautiful woman playing an FBI agent into a field where he's shot and blown up. But then there is this one character, Creighton Duke, played by Steve Williams, who, no, not Dr. Death Steve Williams, not Steve Williams, Stone Cold Steve Austin, no wife beating going on here, and this Steve Williams, I believe his career is alive and well, unlike Dr. Death, ironically. He believes that Jason is not dead because he knows that Jason is a worm, parasite thing, supernatural and all that makes no sense. Jason was never like this. Sure, he was an unkillable machine that Could get acid thrown on him, could get electrocuted, all that stuff and everything. That's fine. But let's go with the mighty Crystal Lake worm, and then let's just go full-on bullshit. So the budget for this was $3 million. So down $2 million from the previous one, which was smart given the gross of this particular movie. That would be just over 2 times the amount today. That's $6.3 million in today's money. $7.5 million opening. So higher than Part 8. That's saying something. That'd be $16 million today, roughly, and a $16 million gross thereabouts, and that'd be $34 million in today's money. So there you are. That's basically pretty much the cap on it. I mean, Jason X really didn't make a whole lot of money either, and cost more. Freddy vs. Jason was a mess, even though it had Rey Mysterio as Freddy. I still can't get over that. That being said, how does this movie look like older than the previous 3 installments that came out in 89, 88, and 86? There's that weird, and tell me, by the way, for anybody who's still watching at this point, this is something that just came to me again. Am I the only one that thinks between like 87 and 93, there's a sizable amount of horror movies that look the same, from fashions to a weird clothy look to them, as far as the style, the camera work, just something about these movies you can't tell unless you look on IMDb. A lot of these movies between 87 and 93, they all look the same. It's like they use the same camera. It's like the same people shot it. I can't explain it. It's just weird. Like, movies from 93 could easily be in 87 or 88. I don't get it. I just simply don't goddamn get it. It's a weird period. That being said, it's like an NRA camping trip where everybody just shoots and blows up Jason. And Creighton Duke says he's not dead. And then there's this coroner guy that sees all the blown up body parts and says, my professional opinion, this guy's deader than shit. Oh, strike that from the record. They should have struck this movie from the goddamn record. He eats the heart. Because the heart has supernatural powers, it gets in his head. How? Why? No? I mean, is there any explanation for this? None. Kane Hodder was, by the way, one of the security guards. There were the 2 security guards there in this one hallway. And you recognize him because he's the big hulking individual. The other one kind of looks like Oscar Isaac. He really does actually look like Oscar Isaac. I had to rewind and actually make sure it wasn't him from another time period. And then the coroner's possessed. He takes a 2-prong thing and looks like he'd stick a turkey with it, and he jams it in the guy's head or throat or whatever. And then the black coroner guy, whose name escapes me right now. Nothing against the guy. I just forgot to write his name down, and the character really doesn't matter. He just goes off after... The white coroner guy says, oh, I'd like to take a big old crap on you. A big old mangle-sized crap, Jason Voorhees. And then we get an American Case News file report thing. The news really looks like it could have been from the late 80s. I can't. I know this is 93. I know we were only a couple years in the decade. I can't get over that. I don't know why. I can't get over it. But it's so stupid. It's so silly. So... Duke basically says, hey, Jason is like a parasite. He just wears people's suits until he can get inside of Voorhees. Quick question, how the fuck does he know this? I mean, genuine question. I don't actually know if they ever explained it. Did they ever explain why he was a worm? Did they ever explain why they decided to basically just take a crap on the entire franchise? Which was never the most well-written or well-thought-out thing in the first place. And after Part 5, arguably, it goes completely off the goddamn rails. And I know it's about a mass killer that just gets more, not but no, he's a parasitic Crystal Lake worm. Crystal Lake is the town. This one diner that's apparently the only thing open in Crystal Lake is preparing for the influx of tourists because Jason is finally dead, except Creighton Duke has said he's not dead. Creighton Duke also, apparently he was a big college fan. Anybody that knows that Creighton is any kind of college, credit to you. Creighton, credit to you. Diana is connected. She actually is a Voorhees. Beautiful woman, by the way, I do want to say in this movie. Probably still is now, I don't know. Every character is dumb and should die. Fortunately, most of them do. The comedy is absolute dog shit. Absolute goddamn dog shit. There are 3 campers. 2 that are banging each other. 1 girl gets poked with one of those tent spikes. Another one gets killed in a hilarious way. At least it's hilarious to me, because I find horror movies funny. At least some of them. I genuinely tried to find this movie funny, because otherwise I was ready to just wonder if Adam Marcus actually was the end result of inbreeding, or if he had inbred studio executives telling him to make the movie this way. In fact, I'm going to go with that there, because I'm sure that somebody would try to direct something better than this, unless the studio said, we want you to make this bad, just churn it out so people will watch it. We don't care if it makes a lot of money, we just want it to make something. Yeah, it may have made like just over 5 times its budget back, but with the advertising, I remember seeing the advertising, that was probably about 1 to 1.5 million that they spent on advertising, because it was a lot of goddamn advertising. Back when I was 93, I was 12 years old. I do recall seeing this in theaters. That's back before they really bothered checking IDs for anything. So I had one of the Twin Cinemas. That was fun. Because why not go and watch that? This movie didn't scar me. There were things that were scarier than this. So some of the scenes were so dark you couldn't see what the fuck was going on, which ended up being a blessing in disguise, because none of these particular scenes were good. None of the kills were good. People would just get possessed. Diana got destroyed. She got, like, pierced. And then the other guy got pierced. It was kind of hilarious. I don't know why it was to me. Jessica, the daughter, shows up, and Jessica has a daughter of her own. So basically, there are only 2 left in the Voorhees bloodline. Jason could be reborn in a little girl, or could be reborn in an idiot. And I'll let you figure out which one that is, because actually all infants are idiots. And that kid was straight out of the Ugly Hook playbook. That's mean. That's really mean. I'm sure that child grew up to be just an amazing individual, and here I am crapping on them because I hated this movie. So, Steven, you know, the guy that looked like the guy from Time Chasers, was arrested. Duke ends up getting arrested, because of course they have to arrest the black guy. And then he gives answers in exchange for breaking Steven's fingers. Why? Paying the price, you must prove that you can pay the price, and I'll break your fingers. Like we're straight out of the Peter Dune playbook. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. Peter Dune wasn't even born in 93, I don't believe. So, the comedy is complete shit. None of the comedy hits. This was really, really bad. The 3 writers must have taken turns coming up with the worst jokes possible. Then they threw those out, and they came up with worse ones. Because these making the cut, it is proof that nobody gave a goddamn shit. Steven eventually ends up, finding a way to get to Jessica. There's a guy named Robert that is setting up a reality TV show, and stole Diana's body because they're going to find a way to make it, this insane thing is going to send her ratings through the roof. And then a cop shows up, because Jason is just possessing people indiscriminately. Just doesn't matter. Just possessing them indiscriminately. And every time he leaves a particular person's body, they melt. We know this because it happens to one person. It literally happens to one person. That probably burned up, I would say, at least $100,000 of the makeup budget. It was a pretty okay scene, I guess. I mean, the makeup effect people tried, but Robert just got punched out, which punching a guy named Robert, especially somebody with that kind of hair, would be appropriate or inappropriate, depending on if your name is Robert and you have that kind of hair. And then he gets shot repeatedly. There's attempted comedy at the diner where Leslie Jordan is, and some fat broad, I don't really know what her name is as far as the character, I don't mean the actress. And they end up eventually rescuing the kid. Diana's body is in this particular house. They manage to dispatch and destroy Jason. Well, sort of, except he pops out of the neck wound, and it looks like that guy had ramen in his goddamn body. And then Jason's mangled worm parasitic corpse ends up crawling in the vagina of the now dead Diana, and then pops up as, another Voorhees. And then is dispatched pretty quickly, because then, Steven is getting the teetotal fuck beaten out of him. Jessica ends up hitting him with the dagger, and he's doing this, and all the weird yellow, orange, things are going out and in and all this, and I don't know what the fuck is going on. The special effects look worse than they did in the third Jason movie. They came out a decade plus before this. Special effects people must have been forced at gunpoint to just make this stuff over a weekend. And go to hell, they kick the dagger in, or she does. Because only a Voorhees can kill him, and Jessica's a Voorhees. And you can't trust a baby to kick, because babies can barely go an hour without shitting themselves. Little goddamn morons. How dare you, you stupid infants. Man, everybody's got to take care of you. Anyway, kick the dagger in, and then Jason's drugged down. But Steven's almost drugged down. To be fair, I drag the fucker down too and just say, look, hell will make you look better. The Earth can't stand to have you here. But Jessica saves him. A dog shows up, sniffs the mask, runs off to the here's other dogs. And then Freddy's hand jumps up. And that was Kane Hodder with the Freddy's hand in doing that. And then the laughter. And that was actually supposed to lead to Freddy vs. Jason. And that sat in development hell for a decade. Which you can kind of see why with the finished product. Yeah, Jason Goes to Hell, and that franchise should have stayed dead and buried. Because Jason X not being the worst entry in that whole thing. Sad. The 2009 reboot, soft reboot, not being the worst is somehow frightening. It did have Willa Ford in her tits. Anyway, so yeah, Friday the 13th, Part 9. A.K.A. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Narrator, it wasn't. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Renthland. I'll see you soon.